welcome to the Lounge of Travefy Academy, where we get to hear from travel industry voices and experts to learn more about their story and also what they see on the horizon for travel professionals. And I'm Stephanie Grice, and our guest today is Jennifer Todden, who's travel advisor with WDW Getaways. And welcome to the Lounge, Jennifer. We're so excited to have you here today.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. This will be great because in this episode, we're going to talk to Jennifer about how she's found success in booking travel in the US. So it's something, we always focus on different types of travel like river cruises, Europe FITs, a lot of those are always the ones we usually just gravitate towards, but there's not so much on domestic travel for the US specifically. So I'm really excited to chat with you today. I think this is going to be really cool.
Cool.
It's going to be a great time. So first things first question for you is, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and just how'd you get started in the industry?
Yeah. So I grew up in Iowa. So we were, really far from everywhere. That was interesting to me, at least when I was a kid. But my parents were teachers. And so they had all summer off and they would usually load us in the car and take us somewhere. So usually that had to do with like some kind of historical site or going to visit family or whatever, but we took like long road trips to Washington, DC or to Canada or to Seattle or California. And I have really fond memories of all of those trips with my family. And so I think that kind of planted the travel bug in me at a really young age. I remember in high school, like wanting to be a travel agent, but I had no idea how to do that back then in the 90s. So, in the age before the internet was really a thing. So I went to college, went to grad school, have been working for universities ever since then. But 7 or 8 years ago, I met somebody who was an independent contractor for WDW Getaways. And at the time, they were a really small agency and focused just on Disney. And Disney has always been something that I've been really excited about. And she said, hey, you'd be really good at this. Why don't you apply? And so I did and got picked and, sold Disney for a while. And then maybe 4 years ago, before the pandemic, the agency has really started to grow and started to give us lots of tools to sell some other destinations. And I kind of remembered back to those trips that I had taken as a kid and really wanted to help other families find that same experience with their kids. And so I started really branching out and selling some other destinations here in the US. So I think it's just a combination of things that I really like to do. I'm a real big nerd. I like to read, I like to plan, I like to research. And so, to me, if someone says, hey, I have 2 free weeks and I want to go somewhere on the West Coast, can you help me figure that out? Like, I am happy to do the research and help them find someplace great to go.
That's awesome. And on that too. Oh, and also side note, shout out to the Midwest, Nebraska, Iowa. Woo!
Yeah.
Road trips are just instilled in us. Like that is just what we do. So yes, it makes so much sense on this path you're on. One question for you is when your clients, you mentioned your clients, they'll be like, I just want to go in this area for this amount of time. But where have you seen a lot of your clients headed, or have they been asking for a certain thing? Like, are there any trends that you're seeing?
Yeah, a couple. California has been really big. So I'm located in Florida now, and I have a lot of clients in the Midwest and kind of in the Southeast. And I have had so many that have asked me about California as a destination. So like everywhere from San Diego, I've sent several to San Diego, San Francisco, LA a little bit, but more kind of either north or even further south. A little bit kind of up in the mountains. I've got some folks going to Yosemite. So like that's been a big draw, I think. I think beyond that, I get a lot of requests for beach. And usually when I get the request for beach, it's I want a beach, I want a resort, I want to be able to walk places. I don't really want to do a whole lot, but I want to be able to like leave the resort a little bit. So that, that could be kind of anywhere on the coast. So digging into that a little bit. Sorry, I have a hair in my mouth. And then national parks is the other one that I've had a lot the last couple of years, particularly Grand Canyon, Yosemite, Yellowstone. but a little bit, some Mount Rushmore and like some other ones as well. But those are kind of the big three that I've gotten a lot of requests for.
Did you notice that with just during the pandemic? So before COVID, did you see any of that, or did it just kind of go up a little higher because just doing more of those like national parks? Because that was definitely, I mean, we noticed it too.
Yeah, so I think like
popular.
The beach in California, I've had kind of consistent, but the national parks I think has really been just the last couple of years. Some in 2020, a lot in 21, and then even a lot more now. I think it's that idea of, I wanted to go somewhere. I wasn't quite ready to leave the country. The idea of a national park means that maybe I don't have to be close in with a lot of other people. Maybe I can rent a house, those kinds of things. So yeah, definitely an upswing. And I think if you look at like park attendance over the last couple of years too, that has gone through the roof. So
yeah, it's so cool. It's cool because it's just shifting the idea of what you can do, and it's really cool. And one thing too is a big common misconception just about travel just in like domestic in the U.S. that it might have maybe a lower commission to it, but that's not always the case. So
right.
How do you find like the right suppliers and make sure that at the end of the day you're satisfied and your clients are also satisfied?
Yeah, so a couple of things with that, like, whether you're booking air inclusive or maybe just hotels and activities, there's lots of options out there. A lot of the major hotel chains do pay commission to travel agents. So Hilton, Hyatt, Marriott, you name it, they probably do. So that's always an option to book direct. The other thing would be, some of the, like if you're in a consortia, I happen to be a member of a consortia that has some different booking engines. So like, for example, Apple Leisure Group, you can book through vacation packages through them. They have tons of domestic destinations, and they actually have a lot where you can do like a multi-stop. So like I fly into Seattle and drive down the coast and then fly home from San Francisco, and I can plug in my hotels along the way. So there are a bunch of options out there for figuring that out. There are some big resorts that will work just with like direct with travel agents too. It just requires a little bit more digging because I think, there's so much focus on that all inclusive or like an escorted tour kind of situation that sometimes I have to do a little bit more research or, work with the management structure in my agency to contact the hotel direct to figure out kind of how that's going to work. But, plenty of Vacasa works with travel agents if you're looking for house rentals. There are a bunch. So it just, it's not your, it's not as easy as click, 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 go. Like, I think if you're booking to Cancun, you have kind of your list in your head of 6 or 8 properties that you always send people to, or maybe a family of properties. And this is going to require a little bit more digging. I personally traveled quite a bit, and so have some places that I like to stay. But, there's so much out there. You can always call the hotel and ask questions. You can look on YouTube for walkthrough videos or something like that, just to kind of get a sense of what what's out there for people. We sell things all the time that we've never experienced personally. The preference is always to have done it ourselves, but if we don't, like, we're good at finding others who have and being able to kind of match what's out there with what the client's looking for and making sure that we're earning a little bit along the way. So
yeah. At the end of the day, you also want to. It's a win-win for you if they're happy and you get the payout.
Well, and the other thing too is there's a couple of sort of unique things in the United States. Maybe they exist elsewhere, but I've only ever seen them here. So like glamping, this idea of like fancy camping. There are several companies. Under Canvas is one. There's another one that the name escapes me off the top of my head, but they work with travel agents and they pay commission. So like if you want to send your clients glamping, there's an opportunity for that. One of the companies that works for the national park, Xanterra, it's Xanterra. They do work with travel agents. They only pay commission on certain things, but like some of the lodging at Grand Canyon, for example, they do pay commission on that. So like you can work through them. And then a couple of the RV rental places also will pay commission to travel agents. So there are options beyond just kind of the big resort if you're looking for something a little bit different or something a little bit more rural.
Yeah, that's so cool. See, it's like you can start to enter a whole new world. That's
Mhm.
like, and would you say over the past like year and a half, have those companies been doing more to try to get to suppliers, or do they offer a lot of opportunities to market themselves, share, so it makes it easier for you to sell it?
Yeah, I think I haven't seen it so much specifically with those vendors, but maybe more like locations. So, for example, like Sanibel Island down in Florida, their tourism board has done a really nice job, I think, of putting together some information for travel agents and doing some training about what type of properties exist down there. There was one that I attended not that long ago for Visit Montana was one. So like, I think like a lot of the state or regional tourist offices have done a really good job of trying to connect travel agents with businesses that will pay commission because they know there's a market right now for domestic travel.
Absolutely. And what does your research process look like when somebody comes to you? Like, for example, the person on, like, want to go to the West Coast. What does your research process look like? Like, what do you do you scour the web for YouTube blog articles? Like,
Yeah.
what does it look like?
Well, obviously the first part of it is trying to figure out from the client, what is it that they're looking for? Because they usually have kind of in their head an idea of, I want to go whale watching, or I want to go horseback riding on the beach, or I want to, spend a day going shopping or whatever. And trying to find out kind of, what are those 2 or 3 things that they really want to make sure that they do on vacation. And then, excuse me, some of it is personal experience. So like I said, I've traveled quite a bit, but then other of it, I'm kind of old school. I really like guidebooks. So like I will pull out a guidebook. Maybe I'll go to the library, or I have my own library of guidebooks at home that I can like pull off the shelf and just kind of riffle through and like, what are the things in this area that maybe I haven't thought about? Or, if they told me they're looking for horseback riding, I can just go to the index and look for horseback riding. And that gives me kind of an idea, because the guidebook, I think, does more than it's not trying to sell you on something. It's trying to tell you what's available and how to access it. And so I like to use that kind of as a jumping off point. And from there, it would be the internet, looking for best resorts on the coast in California, or, and so I know that's all kind of highly subjective, but I think when you see places kind of start to pop up a few times, and then you go direct to their site and you start looking through some things, and maybe then you go look for the YouTube video, or reach out to the other agents in my agency and say, hey, I'm looking at the Hotel Del Coronado in San Diego. Does anybody have any experience with that? Tell me what that was like. And so I think just knowing what your resources are and using those, and like I said, a little bit old school. I like print, although I have graduated to Kindle, like a guidebook on my Kindle, but yeah.
You are not the only one. We hear that all the time. That
Yeah.
especially like people miss brochures. We
Yeah.
we hear that so much about missing that. And I love it because it takes it back. It makes it fun. That is like travel and planning the travel is fun, but sometimes it's not for people, and that's why they come to someone like
Yep.
they're
Exactly.
like, but you're like, I like this. So
Yep.
yeah. And so question on that though, because I know everyone listening is probably like, please ask this question is, do you charge a planning fee? Or so when you're doing all that research, do you plan or charge a fee at all?
I haven't. I do have the option to do that. But I've gotten pretty good at kind of figuring out who are the clients that are really interested in kind of moving through a process, and who's just sort of kicking the tires. And I think some of that's just experience. I've been doing this so quite a while. And so I don't, it's burned me a couple of times, but generally it's okay. I guess from the planning fee perspective, there are times when, like, if my commission on a vacation package is going to be like $12 or something, I might add a little bit on top of that, but I don't charge like a upfront, $150 or $300 planning fee. I could if I wanted to, but I don't. So
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. Anyone listening, I mean, you have the option. You can
Yep.
do, or you can put together, packages. So I know, and that's actually what gets me into the next question is, so you have a special blog and website that you will put, all your inspiration into.
Yep.
And so can you share what that link is, but also how that's going and how you do that?
Yeah, so I just started this back in the fall. I'd been thinking about it for a long time, but I started a website. It's just travelagentjenny.com. And a lot of it is just blogging, like things that I think are fun and cool and interesting. But then there's also a little bit about me and like some photos from places I've been. And it's really just meant to be kind of a like my passion project more than anything else. But like I really like to just think about the different places I've gone and reflect on the time that I've spent in a place. And so I think that's good. And I've had a few folks that have gone to it and been like, oh yeah, some of the things you say, you talked about growing up in Iowa and how you'd go on road trips with your family, and that really resonated with me. So I think it's, just a way to kind of create some trust and help clients know and understand what they're getting when they're working with me.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's a really cool marketing tool. Just, putting it out there and putting ideas and they're like, oh, that's a great idea, but it sounds like I need to work with you to, accomplish this. So it's
Yep.
perfect. I love it. And I love the website name too. It's straight to the
Thanks.
point. It's perfect.
I did a lot of research on that, and I was like trying to come up with something fun and like fancy. And then I was like, why? Like, I might as
Yeah.
well just tell you what I'm trying to do. So, yeah.
Exactly. It's perfect. I love that.
Thanks.
And when it comes to all those destinations, so the ones that you've been to and stuff, and but are there any of what are your favorite destinations to send people to that you're like, you're going to be blown away, that you are going to love it?
Well, let's see. There's so many. So,
Yeah.
um, this is probably a little cliche, but man, if you can afford the time and the distance to get to Hawaii, you need to go. It's amazing. And it doesn't have to be like quote unquote tourist Hawaii where you're going to the luau and doing the thing. I mean, if you want to do that, cool. But if what you want to do is just explore and wander, you can do that really easily there. And it's not as expensive as you think it is. So that is high on the list. I think Chicago is my favorite city in the whole United States. So yeah, everything
Yes.
there. Museums, you got shopping, you got a lake, major league sports, great food. Like that's my favorite city in the whole US. And then let's see, I spent some time living in Yellowstone. And so I know that's like a high bucket list kind of item for a lot of people, but there's a reason why. It's like no other place. It's very special. So in fact, my oldest kid is named after a couple of the towns near Yellowstone because his dad and I met when we were out there. So it holds a special place in my heart. But then like I really enjoy some kind of off the radar places too. So like the Maine coast, like Acadia National Park is pretty and it's awesome and you should go, but there's so many other places on the coast to visit. And to me, that's like perfect for kind of, I don't know, small town road trip wandering, going from blueberry pie to lobster roll to more blueberry pie. Like that's fun. Huntsville, Alabama was surprising and fun. Buffalo, New York, I really enjoyed. Right. Yeah. Who goes
Yeah.
to,
I like
I mean, no
what?
offense if you're from Buffalo, but like that's not on high on the radar for a lot of people. Cincinnati, it was kind of a neat place that I went not that long ago. And then I think there's some kind of, well, I guess kind of in the Chicago vein, if you want a beach, like there are beaches that aren't on the ocean. So we have the Great Lakes, Sheboygan, Wisconsin, weird, but they have a couple of big resorts there right on the beach. It's like white sand, Mackinac Island up in Michigan, if you want kind of that sort of Cape Cod experience, but like not on Cape Cod. And then I think we all forget that you can go to places like the US Virgin Islands or Puerto Rico, and those are considered domestic destinations. You don't need a test to come back. You don't need a passport to go. But you get a very different experience than you would get just about anywhere else in the United States.
That is such okay. Well, first of all, I'm down here just like after this, I'm gonna have to write down all of these. And no, that's what I was gonna. I made sure to make a note that we talked about that of Puerto Rico and I mean in Hawaii, we think of that because but you kind of forget about it still. And the fact that you said it's not as expensive as one would think because it's such a long plane ride. It doesn't have to be. It can be. Yes, if a client comes to you and they want it to be, by all means, let it be. But yeah, it's just that it's such a long plane ride that it feels like you're going to Europe or so. Like it seems like it's
it takes me longer from Florida to get to Hawaii than it does for me to go to like Germany.
Wow.
So yeah.
See, it's just that, but it's but Puerto Rico, when you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot that would be in US Virgin Islands. You can get so creative and it's so cool to get those experiences. And this is also, I feel like I was excited for this podcast episode to have it anytime, but also especially right now where there's people who are still on the fence. They're ready to go somewhere, but they're not in. Maybe they want this certain type of experience, but you can find that here. It's just gonna be different. Like it's just, and like even how you're explaining, I remember someone on a podcast, couples like a year and a half ago, they were mentioning about how they felt like they were in like the Czech Republic in some town in Wisconsin or something. Like it's just, that's here and it's so cool.
Yeah, like Helen, Georgia has a really strong German heritage. And so you can go there and get kind of your Oktoberfest fix in the fall if you want. A town pretty close to where I grew up, Pella, Iowa, has Dutch heritage, and like they have a tulip festival every spring, and like you can go to a working windmill and a Dutch bakery, and like there's places like that all over the US if you look around just a little bit. So yeah.
So excited. Makes me so excited for travel.
Yeah, didn't it just make you want to like throw everything in the car and get going? Yes. Like it does to me. So
absolutely, because you can drive all of these. I mean, it might be a little bit of a longer depending on where you're coming from, but it's possible.
Yeah, I know for some people the idea of driving anywhere on vacation sounds terrible, and that's okay. Like we can work with that too. Yeah. So
can definitely work with that. Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. Well, that is really cool. And I'm really excited to get in because I have rapid fire questions for you. Okay. So we always like to end that way. And it's just going to keep picking your brain. So that's why I'm excited to get to them. So I have about, I think 6 of them, 6 questions. Okay. Are you ready for this?
Sure.
Here we go. Okay. Well, first one is that we kind of already talked about this a little bit, but it can be anywhere. It doesn't have to be US based, but what is your favorite destination? I know that's going to be so
like
hard.
Ever?
Yeah. Like your one favorite destination. And if you need to do a couple, it's okay. We'll accept.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go back and say, like, if you're telling me I've never been to the United States, I have 1 week, like, where would you send me? I'm going to send you to Yellowstone. Like, you need to go. It, I think is iconic. And it was the birthplace of our national park system. And we were the first country to do national parks. So like, this was a big deal. So that's important. Outside of the US, I just went to Berlin for the first time back in November. And it was awesome. Like Berlin is such a great city. It's like German in all the awesome ways that you want in Germany, but it's kind of artsy and like not that expensive and really easy to get around, and some great art and architecture and history. And like one of the very first world events that I remember seeing on the news was the fall of the Berlin Wall. And so being able to kind of really dig into that history, and I did a couple walking tours and things like that, was super cool. So is it like my most favorite place I've ever been? I don't know, but it was a recent favorite, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Oh, and I was going to ask you too, do you watch the show Yellowstone?
I do not. I tried to, but it's really violent, and I can't do that. So
same here. I just know so many people, and I know I'm like, but it makes me want to go to Yellowstone for sure.
Yeah, it was 100%. filmed. It was filmed on an actual ranch about an hour and a half away. You can't they don't do tours of the ranch or anything, but you can go take a picture by the sign if you really need to.
Yeah, really cool. If you're a big movie buff, but that's a good idea for if you're trying to put together like a package and promote that. Yellowstone, TV show inspired.
Yeah, the movie A River Runs Through It was also filmed in that area, and it has some of the best fly fishing in the whole United States, if you're into that. So anyway.
Interesting. So many little facts. Okay, another question kind of off of that is, what is the most underrated destination, do you think?
I feel like you planted this one, but I'm going to say the Midwest, honestly, because
Yes.
I get that that's like a huge area, but I mean, you really can find just about anything you want to do other than maybe mountains. Like you might find a couple of mountains in like the upper peninsula of Michigan or maybe like far out in South Dakota. But if you want beach, if you want city, if you want culture, if you want food, if you want movie sets, if you just want to get away from it all, like it's all there, and it's not terribly expensive. Like there are a lot of really good values to be found. And I love working with clients who have lots of money to spend, but I like working with clients who don't have a lot either, because I think it's just as important for those folks to make good memories. And so like the Midwest is a place I would look for, somebody who's looking for maybe a week on a lake in a cabin. Like there's so many places you could do that there for half of what you would pay in upstate New York or something like that. So
100% agree, and didn't know you were going to say that. So it's totally true. It's
yep.
really cool. Okay, another question here is, what would you say is your favorite food you've had while traveling?
Oh gosh. I don't know. It probably comes from a food truck. Like I like really nice food. My husband's a chef. He likes really nice food. So we tend to eat nice food when we go places, but we also tend to eat the local street food, because that to me, like that's what the local people eat for lunch. And so like, that's good, so whether that's like a poke bowl in Hawaii, or if it's, gosh, we were just in Puerto Rico and the name of them was escaping me, but they basically look like giant empanadas, pastillos or something like that. I don't speak Spanish, so sorry. Those were really good. So I'll be kind of generic and say food truck food.
I like that. That's great. No, it is good stuff. What would you say is your favorite travel movie? Or TV
I knew
show?
that, and I knew this question was coming because I listened to the podcast and I didn't have an answer for it.
You're like, well, what is it?
Probably, I don't know, just because it's hilarious. National Lampoon's Vacation, like, nice. And it makes me think of, I mean, we didn't kill grandma and tie her to the roof, but it makes me think of all of those vacations I had growing up. Like they were just, family road trip to California. So yeah.
Just pandemonium.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Like in a good way, but
yeah. It's just like crazy. Oh man. Yeah. And then, okay. So, and you mentioned, so I'm excited to ask this because you mentioned you like to read. So what would you say was the last great book or article you read? Doesn't have to do with travel or anything, but
last great book or article I read. Well, again, I'm kind of boring. So I read a lot of nonfiction. So, like right now I'm reading, since I went to Berlin, I then wanted to read more about Berlin. So I am reading a book specifically about the history of Berlin, but I read one right before that about the Berlin Wall. That was really interesting. I wish I could remember the name of it. I think it's just called The Berlin Wall. Relatively recent book, but kind of talked about like why it was built, what was going on in the society at the time. There was another one I read called Stasi-Land, which was about what it was like to live in East Germany during the communist era. And it was fascinating. So if you're into history, like those were really good. So that's like super boring answer, but
no, that's great. That's what I'm with you. I kind of like those nonfiction. We have a Travify book club, and we try to do books kind of on that element. So might have to throw that one in the ring. So thank you. Okay, last question for you is: do you have any crazy travel stories? And if so,
doesn't everyone? Probably like the weirdest thing that ever happened to me was getting kicked off a train in Italy. So this is back in my student travel days, so like before the internet and before cell phones and before all of that, and we bought our train tickets to go, I don't remember where we're going, I think Florence to Rome, maybe, Anyway, we bought our train tickets in the train station, but then I didn't like look at them very closely. And like, we thought we had bought them for today, but we had actually bought them for tomorrow and didn't realize it until the conductor came around and checked our tickets. And like, he said, you're getting off the train at the next station. So we were at some random train station in the middle of Italy. Had no idea where we were, but he didn't fine us or anything. So that was nice. Like, that was, you know, and he wasn't like super rude about it. It was just weird. Oh, and then another time I went skiing in Switzerland for spring break with some friends, and I had a friend. So my lesson from this trip is, if you're going skiing and you've never been skiing before, go to ski school. Like, don't skip that. It's really important. And also wear a helmet. So like literally our first run down the hill, he fell and hit his head. And we were kind of laughing at him and like, you know, haha, funny, blah, blah, blah. And then a couple minutes later, like, he started vomiting, which super gross. But like, I freaked out then. I was the only one in the whole group who had actually been skiing before and knew how to ski. So I skied for help, found the ski patrol. They went and got him, ended up helicoptering him back to a hospital in Interlaken in Switzerland. So what I can say is that the ski patrol and the hospital in Interlaken, Switzerland are pretty nice, but go to ski school, wear a helmet, friends fine now. But it was pretty scary. So yeah, that was crazy. I totally forgot about that. So,
oh man, that is really crazy.
Yeah.
And it was the first day.
Yeah, skiing. Like literally we had been on the ski slope for 20 minutes. So,
oh my gosh, that sets the tone for the trip, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, dang. That is what I love asking these questions to everybody, because I'm like, this is wild. I've learned so many lessons from everybody.
Yep.
But I just want to thank you so much for sharing all of that. Really cool. And I'll put the link to your website on our article again. But can you share what that is again?
Yep, it's www.travelagentjenny.com. And I'm also on Instagram at Jennifer Todden. So just first name, last name.
Perfect. Easy. Simple.
Yep.
So that's awesome. Well, thank you so much again. And thanks everyone for tuning into this episode of the Lounge of Travefy Academy, and to our special guest, Jennifer, for joining us here today. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast or subscribe to our YouTube channel for all of the latest episodes. And we hope you enjoyed our conversation today and join us again. But for now, stay safe, and we'll catch you on the next flight or car road